before we go into what's next, Charlie, I want to look at how we got here, because the last couple of months have been so ridiculous, and Brenna put a timeline together for us. That's a lot of fun. We go back to April 30th, and we see all the things that have unfolded. It was the end of April when SKA president Medvedev said they're not ruling out the possibility of Michkov coming to leaving and coming over to the NHL. Decision will be made the end of June. Then all through May, we get these little tidbits here and there. Danny saying we haven't talked to him since the draft, which was funny. Then there's reports from Sports Express and Rottenberg saying things like, we just get all this, and it really kind of started to dry up at the end of May. And then we got a few more things happen as we made our way to the end of May into June. And it was June where it really started to slow down. You know, it was, all right, we're supposed to hear something at the end of the month, and most of the month has gone by, and we've heard very, very little until we get to last Thursday, June 20th. There we go. Yeah. So we had some Instagram posts. We had all the, the exit interview stuff. And then on June 20th, Danny Briere's face. Beautiful. And then just yesterday, Charlie, I threw your tweet in there, but obviously we need to credit Hockey News Hub, Anthony DeMarco, the National People, LeBrun, Friedman, whoever. But Charlie had this, basically confirming the news that Michkov was going to be leaving St. Petersburg for Philly. This has been, I can't compare anything we've done to this. Like, there's been nothing. We've been together a while. I can't think of anything that was quite like this timeline of 2 to 3 months of craziness.
But this is what it was always going to be. When they made the pick, this was what it was always going to be because of how weird it is over in Russia. It was going to be fans scouring social media and his Instagram and trying to parse what the hat he wore means. And it was going to be rumors popping up on Russian language sites, and everybody's doing the crappy Google Translate. And then people freaking out because the crappy Google Translate translated a word wrong, like it was where they were like, if he's not on the first line, we're not going to let him go. When in reality, it was first team, as in if he's not in the NHL, we don't want to let him go. This was always what was going to happen because that's the way it works with these Russian players. That's why there are a lot of teams that are hesitant to do it, because it's a circus. It just is, especially now with the invasion of Ukraine, increasing the geopolitical tensions, and the memorandum of understanding being suspended between the NHL and the KHL. There is now no formal process. There is nothing. It just comes down to what happens, whatever the KHL team wants to do, whatever the NHL team can do on the side, whatever the player can negotiate with the team. It's basically like the Wild West, except it's the Wild East. And it was always going to be weird. So while I didn't certainly predict the nature of the weirdness, I knew it was going to be strange. And the fact that these 2 months have been very odd, it shouldn't have come as a major surprise.
Are you reading some of these comments, Charlie? Because they're very funny. Jay Money says, Charlie is my Matvei Michkov. And then someone else, Nathan Smith says Charlie is more like Gretzky. Everyone's in a good mood. When we're treating the journalists well, right? Everyone's in a great mood.
No, thanks, everyone.
I want to talk a little about the draft and everything. Charlie O'Connor McDavid. There you go.
Pretty good.
Before we get to the draft stuff, you mentioned you think it would be a good cosmic reward for Morgan Frost, and I don't disagree. He's the most skilled center on the team, so it makes sense to put him on a line with Michkov and try to maximize both guys. But who do you think? Because you've watched tape on the guy, you've watched him play. Who do you think are the best fits on the current roster to play alongside Michkov?
I mean, the dream line I have in my head, I guess in the short term, I would really like to see a line of Forrester, Frost, Michkov, because I do think that they would need some size and some ability to drive play, some defensive acumen. And Forrester, despite being young, already shows that. I mean, he's strong along the boards. Tortorella has said multiple times he might be our best player along the boards already. And he's only going to get stronger as he moves into his mid to late 20s. So having him provide that kind of support to Michkov, and then also give Michkov, because Michkov, I've said this on multiple occasions, I think Michkov at heart wants to score goals. That he is more of a pure goal scorer than a pure playmaker. But he can still make plays. He can still set up line mates. And Morgan Frost is very much not a pure goal scorer. Like he's a pure passer. It would be nice to give Michkov the opportunity to pass to someone who does have a nose for the net and who does have a plus shot, who can turn some of his passes into goals too, because I'm expecting Tyson Forrester to take a step forward next year. I very much am. That could be a really fun line. Like my kind of dream is like you get a 1C, like a real 1C, and then your future first line is, Forrester, whoever that 1C is, Michkov. And there's your top line forever.
Linden 49, Habs fans, I can speak. Habs fans are pissed. Exciting time in Flyerland.
Are they ever not mad though? I know they're especially mad now, but I feel like mad is their default. Like that's their standing reaction.
I am in a mode right now where I couldn't give a shit about any other fan base. Listen, in a few hours, one fan base in this league is going to be happier than any other. We're going to be a close second still, I think. But like, if it's not like, I don't even care that they made the decision. Like, thanks. Like, you can be mad. I guess that means you're upset with your own decision. If you're mad at the Flyer, like, okay, that means you don't believe in Reinbacher a whole lot, I guess. I like, they don't. Habs fans don't come to mind at all right now. I'm happy for us because it's been so long since we've had literally like anything good, Charlie.
I do think the people who are most cognizant of how angry Habs fans are the people who are extremely online because they've been fighting with Habs fans for the better part of a year about Michkov. And this is like this is the culmination of all those debates about he's never going to come over. He's got character concerns. That actually, I want to speak to the character concerns thing because that was an interesting tidbit, I thought, in Kevin Kurz's article he did this morning, looking back on the draft pick. And a lot of it was stuff that, and this isn't me like shitting on Kevin by any means, but like, because he wasn't on the beat in June. Like last June. A lot of it was rehashing stuff that had already been reported, but there were a couple tidbits that were legitimately new. And one that I found really interesting because I never had dug this up or even really asked anybody about the specifics, but it does speak to a big reason why Montreal, I believe, passed on Michkov because they had heard what they believed to be pretty concerning stories about his character, specifically how he meshed with his teammates. There were some stories around the draft that were some pretty big conflicts between him and his teammates. That like there were some teammates he really, really didn't get along with that did not have good things to say about Matvei Michkov in Sochi. And apparently the Flyers had heard these rumblings too, unsurprisingly. And they apparently, per the article, they grilled him about these things. And the answers that Michkov gave, what Kevin reported in the story, was that Michkov admitted, according to the source, that he needed to learn that not everyone was on his level, that his teammates' inability to do certain things on the ice didn't stem from a lack of commitment or dedication to hockey. If there were ever feelings of frustration for Michkov, they were simply born from his competitiveness. Now, it remains to be seen if that's actually true. Like maybe in 4 years, we're talking about how Michkov failed because he's just a dick. But that is a very good answer and an explanation as to why those stories may have been true, but also don't necessarily portend that he is going to be a nightmare in the NHL as a teammate.
And listen, maybe, like you said, there's more to it than that, and he's an asshole, and it just, whatever. But I've said so many times, like about the locker room in the recent past, like, hey man, we're all friends, we get along, and like, you know what? No, Claude Giroux should hate fucking everybody. They've all wasted his prime. He should be mad at everybody but Jake Voracek because they all fucking wasted the best years of his career. And it's like, he's nice, he's a good guy. Like, maybe he shouldn't be. I'm not saying that, like, oh yeah, he's a leader, he's going to be the captain of this team. But I think you need a little bit of that. And the way that the Flyers are, we've talked about this, they like everyone to be a little uncomfortable. They don't like, okay, we're going to have Kumbaya, we're going to have this nice coat. No, we're going to bring in John Tortorella. You know, we're going to do this sort of shit that makes everyone a little bit uncomfortable. And that's how you get better, by exceeding your comfort zone. I'm in the afterglow of this thing now. We're getting this great player, so I'm going to spin it to the way I want to. But the way I want to look at it right now is good. He should be yelling at the players who aren't fucking good because they shouldn't be around him. We should have nothing but good players and not a whole bunch of dudes wasting everyone's time like we've had for the last decade. Like, that's how I'm looking at this thing. And I hope he's that way with this team because they desperately, desperately need it.
We all silly like the mayor.